This is one of those instances where you walk in more or less knowing to expect disappointment and heartbreak, as that's clearly what they're setting up in this Witch from Mercury episode. Yet when the heartbreak and tragedy does occur, I'm still left surprised and heartbroken and disappointed, and honestly, would I have it any other way at this point? No, but it doesn't change the fact that seeing a once lively and arguably pretty happy school turned to rubble, and I mean, at least the animals got away safely as seen by the end of the episode, but I think one of my favorite moments out of everything we've seen from Suletta has to come with the very final moment with her character. Now, she doesn't really say a whole lot, we don't even see her face, but if we compare the end of Core 1 when she was crying on the floor when all the murder was happening around her, she wanted nothing to do with that, and Prospera, being Prospera, code phrases and all, turned her into a mindless killing machine, and that's why she could slip on blood and joke it off and act like nothing happened. But we know that's not who she is as a person. And that's why, as heartbreaking as it is, it does make me happy to see Suletta look at all that rubble and her only response is, "Can you give me a hand? I want to help whoever might still be left alive in there, and we have to get the other bodies out so that they could have a proper burial." That little moment at the end of episode 20, when we compare her final moments of Core 1, at the very least, she isn't brainwashed anymore. This is who she is as a person and wants to be as a person, and at the very least, we're getting to see her surrounded by her true friends here say, absolutely, let's do what we can. And as heartbreaking of an episode as it was, at the very least, we are seeing some great moments with Suletta, even if they are very brief in an episode like this. Now, full live reaction episode 20 is available on my Patreon if you're interested in seeing. You can consider supporting and heading on over there if you do want to see my full uncut thoughts. This was a pretty insane episode, given the fact that Suletta is no longer with the Aerial. Obviously, any action that was going to pop up this episode, she probably wouldn't be a part of it. Now, eventually, she'll probably get a different mobile suit, and she'll use it, of course. But given what happened this episode, no, that would probably feel a little too fast-paced. And I like the fact that there's a couple of really great moments. I mean, the heartbreak when it comes to Ailun as well as Noria, I mean, wasn't expecting it to go that hard, but damn if that didn't sting. But the star attraction building up throughout this episode had to be Guel versus Shadi, because at the end of the day, right, there's a lot of tension there, and we've been waiting for our boy Guel to be able to have a true fight against someone and not come out with an L on his forehead. And honestly, man, that fight went in hard. Throughout the entire episode, they just constantly were showing us whether minor characters, major supporting characters, or arguably main characters at this point, and their fights were superb. A giant laser blast destroying every nook and cranny of the screen, characters fleeing for their life, holding the injured on their back, as you just see these characters just lay out everything they want to say. Unfortunately, some characters listening in got a little more than they signed up for. You gotta feel bad for Guel's brother here. He basically thinks, oh man, I gotta take over the business, I'm not really cut out for this, hell, if Guel's back, at least the family's kinda repaired. Casually hears over the telecoms, oh yeah, but aren't you the one who killed your father? Now, of course, we know he didn't do it on purpose, he had no idea that that was his father. But it doesn't change the fact that's not the way you want to break the ice for some major information, and honestly, despite not really saying anything and just having a couple of shocked reactions, yeah, his brother's not going to be doing too good after this episode. But I like the fact that we get a lot of things out in the air, like, hey, you know what, we worked with your father in order to try to kill Delling, and ultimately, yeah, we were doing things, we were using you, and we just got a lot out in the open. Things that we already pretty much knew, but for them to fully admit face to face, it was pretty great, because I was totally expecting Guel was going to get jumped like 6 versus 1 or something, but it was nice to see them just have that one-on-one duel, and when things start exploding, like he eventually jumps out of his suit and he's just resting on the hand of another as basically, well, his mobile suit is just, it's pieces everywhere. It's you ain't repairing that, is all I'm saying. It was nice. It was a battle that felt well earned. It felt like on both sides they had moments of victory, but most importantly, we got so much out in the air, and to see the final moments of that, just seeing that man just say, my foolish son, like, it just kind of said it all. And I think the mixture of great OST tracks playing throughout this episode, I mean, every time the ending song's approaching, they kind of build in with the sound, and then that beautiful voice starts singing, it always is going to make you either teary-eyed or feel just very emotional, especially in an episode where as many died as they did. But just even the general action sequences, whether sound effects or music, it just ties the whole package together. But the biggest surprise out of hands down the past 5 episodes has to be this kind of tragic story between, because when you really rewind, your initial thoughts, oh, Nika's sitting in a corner, she's in a cast, she's not looking too good. Ellen, I mean, who the hell knows what he's up to? As then you have Noria, who lost everything and basically is just scribbling her pictures and freaking out and is a very pissed off woman, and understandably so. To see him tragically rush in and just say, don't do this, come with me, let's have a good life together, I was like, oh man, well, I already thought she had a death flag when I started seeing her face light up in the way it was. I was just expecting that she was going to push herself too hard and she was going to have a heart attack or something, but the sniper shot, I should have saw that one coming, but the idea of like when she pushes away and she does the head spin with the smile, that stung, man. That really stung. And initially when we had these two characters, we had Noria as well as Sophie. I was like, if one of them, if I was to pick one to stick around, I would have picked Sophie because she was the more interesting personality. But what I said when she died was that because they decided to kill, in my opinion, the more interesting personality out of the two, what usually happens in a show like this is the more quiet one, or the one you may not like initially as much as the other, usually gets something to really create a character that is even more memorable than potentially the one you wanted to live. And honestly, by the end of this episode, I can say they delivered. They turned her into a very compelling character, and the way she handled her depression and anger and turned that into just a brief moment of happiness before it all ended, I mean, it was tragic and beautiful, man. Like, this season of Gundam is so interesting, and just, as I keep saying, the possibilities with this universe is honestly endless, and I'm excited, but I'm very worried to see the remaining month of this show, because as much as we know our girl Sletta is going to jump aboard probably a different mobile suit, and we had some great varieties of them in this episode. Hell, even Choo Choo decided to get aboard, right? At the end of the day, man, it doesn't change the fact that things are very different for these characters. We ended Core 1 with a lot of tragicness, but we were able to adjust back to them having a seemingly normal school life because it wasn't the end-all be-all. Now, there ain't no recovering. Not only is the school pretty much destroyed, at the end of the day, half the damn faculty and members of said school are dead, and that is a lot of body bags, and that's a lot of hell to deal with, and who knows where we're gonna go. We hardly saw Mio in this episode, but damn if her resentment for herself and what's happening says it all. I mean, hell, we don't even see Prosper this episode, but goddamn, we know what she's feeling. She probably has a giant grin on her face right now. Just everything is falling into the hands of people that I don't think it should be, but at the end of the day, it makes for one hell of a compelling story. But let me know what you thought down below. This was definitely a crazy episode, a lot of heartbreak, but it made for one hell of a story. But thoughts, feelings yourself down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more Gundam Witch from Mercury on the channel. And as I mentioned, full live reaction to this insane episode is available on my Patreon if you're interested, and while you're there, you'll also get a video shoutout. So today, we have Anton, Timothy Pitzer, Zeke Liu, Eugene Lauren, and Fanny DuPont Hot. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.